We are live on Proline TV, the Our Football Network. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and that means RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys, joins us here. And I guess I wish this was under better circumstances, RJ, but this was something that we obviously talked about just about a month ago. Not really ever believing that this would be the ultimate decision that would be made by the Cowboys, but maybe not a complete surprise based on how you've talked about Jerry Jones and how he's handled these types of situations before. So I'm going to get your initial take, RJ. And I want to remind everybody or let everybody know that you can right now check out a link in the description of this video where you can click the link and go directly to RJ's website, and it says RJ's reaction to the trade. It's a 40-minute video, and you get everything that RJ says, basically his feelings, analysis, and so forth. And you'll want to definitely check that out. So again, RJ, thanks for taking your time to do this and how busy you are.
Appreciate it, Greg. And I think that the context that I'm experiencing is important. You've been kind enough to have me, despite the fact that I've got a landmine of 2 dogs in my office with me. I shot that video or did that show. My wife was working late on Thursday, and I was on solo dad duty. And I was on my way to pick my son up from school when the news broke. So it was one of those, like, I knew this was going to be just chaotic. And then my in-laws visited over the weekend, and that went into the Labor Day. And college football started. I wanted to watch, and at the moment, my house is being painted inside. So, like, that though is the most organized that my life has been, because the professional part of my life has been more chaotic than all of that. You're right. I didn't think this would happen. I think we all thought that it would follow the same script as far as Dak and CD were concerned, getting done maybe sometime for us in real time tomorrow or Thursday. I think that it seems pretty fair that some feelings got involved, some emotions, some rash decisions were made. And, I know our audience at Blogging the Boys is getting a bit tired of, we don't want to hear about Micah. Micah's a Packer, blah, blah, blah. And I completely get that. But this is contextually tied to everything that the Cowboys are going to do for a very long time. I mean, literally through 2027 is the second first-round pick that obviously Green Bay is sending. So that it was Green Bay, I mean, that's part of it all too. The team that has just like been the Cowboys' daddy in the playoffs for a long time. They have this weird incestuous relationship with them. Mike McCarthy, that the Packers won their Super Bowl, the most modern one in the Cowboys building. I mean, it's all this weird stuff. I really am still quite stunned that the Cowboys actually pulled it off. And there's no question that they're a worse football team. And I think if I feel anything passionately, it's that people are trying to logically process the explanations the Cowboys have offered. Mm-hmm. And like, let's be real. Like, yes, they said that they're doing this to improve their run defense because they have to say something. I mean, so it has just tugged and pulled and ached at every part of my brain, including shock and awe, which is, I think, what lies underneath it all.
But was there a question as far as, because I didn't even have a chance to check out the press conference, was there a question at all regarding the timing of it? Why couldn't this have gotten done sooner?
So, I mean, that was the type of press conference. When you're a Cowboys fan, everyone in your life, just like your phone is never more abuzz than when something terrible happens to the Cowboys. And so that was part of my overwhelm on Thursday. Was every person I've ever known, every person I ever walked past had a thought to share with me by way of a text or a DM. And this was the kind of press conference that they all watched. And everybody said, oh my gosh, this was a disaster. I mean, they were so tone deaf, and they said all these ridiculous things. And my response was like, dude, this is very normal. Like, this is a standard day for them.
Normal for you and the Cowboy fans. Yeah.
They could not logically defend anything for, whatever reason, whether it be accidental or intentional. Jerry kept referring to Micah as Michael. You may have seen them. He did that 4 times. And it felt intentional to me. I know some people believe it may have just been a slip of the tongue. But they can't justify us. And I think that they're still trying to. We're chatting on Tuesday. And earlier on Tuesday, there was this full press from ESPN there was the in-depth analysis on this in which the Avengers assemble. I don't know if you've read this yet, but Don Van Natta Jr., Seth Wickersham, Jeremy Fowler, and then they got the beat guys, Todd Archer and Rob Domofsky, to all chime in on this massive report. So really well sourced, really well done. And in this report, they talk about Kenny Clark, who the Cowboys said in that press conference, and they've said in different, avenues ever since the trade a week ago, he had to be involved. He was a mandatory piece. He helps improve their run defense. Okay, cool. I'll walk with you there. In this report, there is one sentence, Greg, that reads how the Cowboys view Clark to be a multi-year option for them. But within the same sentence says that his contract was appealing to them because they can release him in the offseason if they want to. Yeah. And maybe they redo a deal, they do a new one. But to that point, I would offer now you've given Kenny Clark some leverage because he knows you have to keep him to keep face with all this stuff. So there is no way that, and you simply cannot explain any of it. And that is truly and has been my biggest criticism of this team since the aforementioned Packers playoff loss in 2023, or I guess January of 24, because they have not done anything in one singular direction. What I often say is they don't have a North Star. I'm certain I've used that expression with you. I may disagree with your North Star. Even if your North Star is tanking, but at least all of your concentrated efforts are moving in that direction. That's not the case with the Cowboys. So many people, Greg, have said, I know you love college football and know how rich the 2026 and 27 draft classes are at the quarterback position specifically. Sure. And so many people have said, like, okay, well, this is clearly the move to, find the future franchise quarterback. I agree the Cowboys might be in the market for that, but you don't make a move of this seismic, nature towards finding the next franchise quarterback of your team a year after you just paid him. Like these are contradicting ideas. Like, so many people have tried to say, well, okay, they clearly are doing this. No, there is no clearly. On Thursday, they felt like trading away Micah Parsons. Yeah. Who knows what they'll feel like doing, on Friday or next Tuesday or whatever. They are. Jerry's line about waiting for leaves to fall, I think, is apt in that they are the leaf. I mean, they are the leaf, and that they float wherever the wind blows them, whatever direction it happens to be on that particular day.
Was there anything, I heard somebody say something along the lines that Jerry Jones almost like admitted that this is not a winning season or something along that. Was there something along that line that he said?
I think the Cowboys are coping pretty hard. I mean, and that's where this is strange. They don't do this. If there is like a common denominator of pattern or behavior, they don't tank. I mean, just look at last year, for example, when, everything was broken. You and I discussed that many times, but then Dak gets hurt. And so even if you are the, most ardent supporter, you recognize, okay, Dak's just gotten hurt. It's week 9. This season is cooked. And instead of saying at that time, let's play Trey Lance, even though he's in a contract year. We can determine whether or not he's somebody we want to have around. QB2, maybe we do a new deal with him, whatever. No, they insisted on playing Cooper Rush and only played Trey Lance in the season finale, which was silly. So I bring that up to say they didn't do that because that would have been a clear white flag of this season is over. We don't do that. We're playing Cooper Rush because we're trying to compete. And some of that was Mike McCarthy in the contract year and all this stuff. So no one will take you seriously if you are trying to present that you are a better football team today than you were last Wednesday when Micah was on your team. So that's why, you can only logically, and I use that word very, very loosely, deduce that this was just a matter of picking up your ball and going home the way that the Cowboys operate, obviously relative to a deal of this size.
Okay, so let's spend the last remaining part of our interview going over and again, it wasn't designed this way, but let's talk about some of the what possibly be looked at as a positive down the road. How can the Cowboys, how can fans, how can they spin this eventually into a positive? And I'm taking this also from a little bit of what you talked about on the video about just potentially there's something to potentially look at here that could turn into a positive. So what is that?
I think it's the mirror. That's the thing that you, if you are hoping against all hopes, right? Like if this is the one out of like 8 million scenarios that Doctor Strange saw, and this was the only chance, right, was to surrender the stone to, Thanos, and you just did that to the Green Bay Packers. The long-term hope is that they recognize, okay, we went about this in a silly way. We need to get our act together. We need to be, more productive. We need to stop stirring the pot, stop being so toxic. Those are all off the field things, but but they've, infiltrated who the Cowboys are on the field. I don't think there's any, disputing that at this point in time. And so when you get to the practical nature and the implementation of the resources that Dallas got as a result of the trade, I mean, if I had to fast forward right now, I would say, without knowing anything, that I would love for those 2 first-round picks to become more capital. They have to become things that you're feeding off of for forever. I mean, you've got to teach this man to fish, so to speak, and give him a fishing rod and not just an actual fish. That's how you really reap from this. That's what Howie Roseman has done. The trade they made with the Saints for forever, was just kind of bearing fruit. So obviously it goes without saying that everybody you draft turns out wonderfully from this. And I think that we can take what happened on Sunday as maybe, the lesson starting to take hold, as far as their disposition, what with getting the DaRon Bland deal done, if they get a Tyler Smith deal done, if they get Brandon Aubrey, if they get George Pickens, although he's represented by the same agency as Micah. Obviously, that's been said many times. I mean, the way I squared it and the way I said it, as you mentioned, is that this is only worth it effectively if there's a culture change, if they recognize that, hey, we can't be this way anymore, and it costed everyone Micah Parsons for that lesson to be learned, but if it was learned, so be it.
Okay. And so you mentioned the contracts. Those contracts you're talking about, these are players that you felt would have little chance of returning if they had spent all that money on Micah. Would that be the case?
I will say, as I try to dodge Bear, that's Bear. He's also a fan of the Bears, so he's been down really bad in recent history.
Yeah, sure.
But so I apologize and excuse me. I think we all assumed, and even to some degree still assume, hey, bud, let's go.
Give him a treat. There you go. Here comes the treat, baby.
Yeah, there we go. Bear and Honey, because we think we're clever with our dog names. Each get a treat here. I think the fear has been and remains that Tyler Smith will get the same treatment from the Cowboys, that they'll drag. He's first eligible, now eligible for a
he's
contract
next.
extension.
He's the next big example.
I mean, he's the next first-round pick who's eligible.
Okay.
DaRon Bland was a part of that same draft class, but they've already taken care of him. He was a 5th-round pick. And so, if, for example, Bear, if the Tyler Smith deal were done by Thursday, I even tweeted on Sunday, I said, if they get this deal done, I'll eat an entire cheesecake in my postgame show, because I would be legitimately impressed. Now, I stand by that, this all really, if you're looking for the root cause and the genesis of the infection, began when Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb were not extended in 2023. Because if you go back that far, that was when they were eligible and Dak was coming off the interception-riddled season. I mean, you probably could have had him for a deal, relatively speaking. And this was before the wide receiver market had reached $30 million per year. And more importantly, before the narrative had been created that Dallas waits and waits and waits and waits and waits. So you get them done in 23. That means last year in 24, you can get Micah done. And that means this year at the beginning of 25, you can get Tyler Smith done. You can get DaRon Bland done. Right after you trade for George Pickens, you can get him done. You can get Brandon Aubrey done. So I mean, like, the hope would be that there is this reset of sorts, that Micah helps them kind of, refresh, so to speak, even though they lost him. And now you are at ground zero. We've all had like the weekend where we're like, okay, fine. I know I was on a diet. I'm just lost this weekend. I'm just going to eat. And Monday I'll be back and I'll start taking it seriously. You hope that this is Monday, so to speak, that the Cowboys have said, okay, fine. We'll get ahead on Tyler Smith. We'll get a deal done with George Pickens. We'll get it. We already got DaRon Bland done. And, next year would be Mozzie Smith. And I know you're a Michigan man, so apologies. but my point is, next year also allows a bit of a reprieve, because next year you don't have a first-round pick who's eligible for an extension for the first time, who you really want to sign, the way you did Tyler Smith this offseason, Micah last, CeeDee before that. Like, the cons of drafting really well are that you have those problems theoretically each and every single year. So the Cowboys have some time in that next year the class of 23 is due, and their first-round draft pick that year is not worth anything. Again, all due respect to Mozzie. So if that happens and they're able to reset, then, they're kind of set for the next wave, so to speak.
By the way, I was watching Brian Schottenheimer in a press conference, and it was the first time I've ever heard him say, or anybody about the Cowboys say, that this is a draft and development program. And has that been said recently? Has this been said for a while and I'm just picking up on it right now?
I think the Cowboys take great pride in who they draft and how they draft. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that they have had players who are worthy of paying, right? Like, that goes without saying. But, since I'd like to say that things really changed for this franchise since the dawn. I know I've told you this, of the 2011 CBA, which introduced the rookie wage scale. And the first player the Cowboys had who was drafted under those parameters that was eligible for an extension, they got done as soon as possible. And it was Tyron Smith in 2014. And you may recall, or your audience may recall, Tyron got like a 10-year deal. I mean, it was crazy.
That's right.
And it was this massive just kind of well that they kept going to over and over and over again. And there became a point in time where I think the NFL as a whole, and obviously Cowboys players, realize, you know what, we want earlier bites back at the apple. You know, we want these 3-year deals, 4-year deals, even after our second contract, so that you can get a third contract. Not every, we talk about how rare it is for players to get that second contract. That third one is even more difficult. You have to be really good and really last a while and play the right position. And so in that time, since 2011, all those first round picks, I believe the Cowboys have had 12 players who were ultimately eligible for different extensions to this point in time, and only 5 of them got long-term deals. So you can't really sit here and tell me, hey, we take great pride in drafting dudes in the first round and turning them into stars and paying them and keeping them around. Now, some of these players did get second deals with the Cowboys, but as an example, if you recall Morris Claiborne, the Cowboys declined his 5th-year option and then got him back on a 1-year deal. That wasn't a long-term extension, though. I mean, we're talking about players who you gave life-changing. Sure. All of it is life-changing, but you gave significant money to be cornerstones of your franchise. They missed on Morris Claiborne. They missed on Leighton Vander Esch. They didn't have a first-round pick in 2019 because of the Amari Cooper trade. They've missed on Mozzie Smith. They didn't give a new deal or a second deal to Byron Jones. I mean, so there are a lot of examples of the Cowboys, whiffing and not necessarily being a draft and develop team. And if you are this like draft and develop, we like our guys, we keep our guys, we pay our guys type program, then why has this list been so long for forever? Why are you so far behind? Why has the bill been due for forever? Yeah. Why did you have to go to the 11th hour to see what you needed to see from CeeDee Lamb, from Dak Prescott, and
absolutely
to ultimately trade Micah Parsons? So I think Brian Schottenheimer is a good man and is speaking the company line, but it falls a little bit on deaf ears based on the evidence.
Okay, before I let you go, when we spoke about a month ago, the Cowboys were at 8.5 on the win total. They are now, believe it or not, no big surprise, I guess, 7.5. They've lost the game. So now it's 7.5, 100. It was 8.5 plus 120. So you had originally decided that you were going over. And now that it's lower, are you still emphatically over? Has your mind changed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even breaking a sweat at 7 or 8.5. I'm even thinking about 9.5. This is, I know I gave you the spiel then. This is not a team that, that just bottoms out. I mean, they did just trade away their best player, but their second best player is the star wide receiver, and their third best player, well, we could get into the weeds, but my point is they have one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and they have the third best receiver in football in CeeDee Lamb. And now they have the 22nd best receiver in George Pickens. And so this was always going to be an offensive production. There's no doubt about it. Like, as amazing as Micah is and was, and I would not have traded him. I stand by that. It was very dumb and should have never come to this, but it doesn't really change that math for me, because, I think Micah can be great. And this is not he faded in the playoffs. They don't need him take. This is just this is the NFL in 2025. I mean, if you aren't lighting it up on offense, you don't have a chance. You can have any of the, I mean, I don't know who you think the best pass rusher is in the NFL. I think some people would say Myles Garrett. Their team stinks. I mean, and a lot of it is because they don't have those other qualities figured out. TJ Watt, I mean, Max Crosby, like the other players who got paid right before Micah Parsons. And I think the Packers will be very good because Jordan Love is very good. But you've got to have, somebody, there's been all sorts of discussion around this, and somebody said, knowing what you know now, would you have, done Micah and gotten rid of Dak? And I said, no. I mean, even though I think Micah is maybe the best pass rusher in the NFL and Dak might be the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, the quarterback is so important. I mean, the quarterback matters so much. And so I think that, I mean, I again, in no way is this a blessing in disguise, or is this good, or is this help? There's no cope going on in that sense, but the Cowboys still have George Pickens. And I think we all forgot that, or some people forgot that, just because this has taken up all of the oxygen in the room for 6 weeks now. And so I mean, I would not be shocked. I'm not going to pick the Cowboys to win on Thursday, to be clear. Sorry if I spoiled that, but I would not be shocked if on Friday morning, everybody's like, holy crap, George Pickens had, 143 yards on 6 catches for 2 touchdowns. How did they let Dak Prescott get this guy with CeeDee Lamb? And that's going to be the straw that stirs their drink. So I'll take over 8.5. And like I said, if I was feeling, I might hedge positively and go over 9.5 with just a little bit so that I'm protected either way.
Okay, so you're going to go with a 9-8 or 10-7 season.
Yeah, and I think they'll be. I mean, like, I'll ask you. I'll flip the script here. Name me the 7 teams who make the playoffs over the Cowboys right now. If you had to make that case, 'cause I don't think you can. I mean, like, you can pick your division winners and then what, 2 teams coming out of the NFC North. I mean, and
no, I hear what you're saying because of the fact that
and maybe Washington and Philly both, but are 2 NFC West teams making it? I don't think so. So this comes down to the NFC South sending a second team, which I think we certainly don't believe.
If I were to look at it, I would say Eagles, Packers, Washington, Lions. NFC West is 5 with Rams, I think. Tampa Bay 6. And then I think it's just wide open for the 7th spot.
Yeah,
I don't look at it like the Cowboys don't have a shot at that 7th spot.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it comes down to Dallas over JJ McCarthy's Vikings, who I am, again, Michigan man, but open question mark.
We don't know. We don't.
Yeah,
know.
Dallas over Ben Johnson's Chicago Bears, and maybe.
I have no doubt that they're going to be better than the Bears.
Yeah. So, like, that's my point. Is it comes down to that, and maybe even they leapfrog Washington in that discussion. Maybe they
never know.
Maybe they leapfrog who doesn't win the NFC North or whatever. Like, my point is, and where would you? I know I've asked you this before. Where would you rank Dak in NFC quarterbacks? Because that's ultimately what this question comes down
to. Like you said, I think. Again, if I'm really sticking a lot of it is fantasy, but overall, if I'm just talking quarterbacks, you have to put him in the top 10, like you said.
No, the NFC though.
NFC.
I think you've got, because the AFC's loaded. AFC has your top 4.
You got Hurts.
Hurts you debate because the team's so good.
Right now, I think he's better than Love. Right now, I really do.
So yeah,
because after what Love did last year, I don't have confidence in him until he shows it to me. I think Love, what we saw at the end of that year, 2 years ago, I've seen. I don't know if I've seen Dak be that good, but I'm willing to say right now I would put him ahead of him. Then you've got Goff. I mean, Daniels is young, but he is a superstar in the making. No way, Purdy, Stafford. Now, again, are you talking about this year, or would I rather have him for the next 3 or 4 years than it's Prescott over Stafford? But if it's this year, even this year, I might take him because I got no idea about Stafford's health.
That's what I'm saying. Like, every person who I think is like a duh over Dak, you can qualify. Like, Hurts won the Super Bowl MVP, in no way taken away, but he's on an amazing team and he has amazing coaches, right? So like we can contextualize it that way. Yes. Jared Goff just lost his amazing offensive coordinator. Is he going to be the same? That's a fair question. Jordan Love may be somebody who built a fortune off of embarrassing the Cowboys in the playoffs. That he would certainly not be the first person to do that. Matthew Stafford, does he have a back? Are we certain? Are we sure? Are we ever going to know?
That's right.
I mean, so my point is, like, if you look at it like, I always forget the term for it, but the like line of succession for the president. Like, Dak is not far away from being the president in this respect. Like, even the best quarterback in the NFC South. I mean, I've never, and I promise this is not a woe is me, woe are the Cowboys thing, but Dak finished second in MVP voting 2 years ago, and we act like, and I know I've made this point to you, the whole world believes that the offensive play caller and head coach of that team was straight garbage. But I mean, but Dak sucks. Even though he had all this success, in spite of what everyone acknowledges was an anvil weighing around his neck. I mean, like, those things can't both be true. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can't be that Dak is terrible, he's not good, and Mike McCarthy sucked, and they had this high level of success. Something has to have been right. And if it is Dak Prescott, and now he's been fortified by having George Pickens on his team, and his defense sucks more, he's gonna have to be Dak Prescott to an even larger degree.
That's true.
That's why I'm saying, like, I would take them in a lot of respects. Now, they've got to play the Eagles twice, and who knows if Washington is for real or if there is regression to the mean. Like, there are a number of questions, but that's why I know I've told you this before, and I don't mean to just repeat myself, but people just hear the Cowboys sometimes. People just hear the screaming and the memes and the noise and the Facebook posts. And so who they are, you have to strip a lot of that away sometimes to fully get to the truth, I think.
Well, that's why I want to have you on. I mean, it's, and that's why I love having these types of discussions, because you are around this team as a fan and as a reporter for as long as obviously you can recall. And the fact is that all of us haven't. So if you have any sort of unbiased reporting ability in you, then you should be much more qualified to be able to break down the team than anybody outside. And that's why it's important to hear your perspective. This line has jumped 1.5 points. So now it's 8.5. You thought that this game was going to be a really good competitive game. You had mentioned first time we're going to see Prescott and Hurts together, battle it out. Looks like that's what we're going to see. So you just already said not going to win this game. Are they going to be in the game?
So I was looking at this earlier this morning, and I'd ask you to look at something if you don't mind. So the Cowboys are the biggest underdog of Week 1 at the moment. They're 8.5-point underdog. Second,
really?
Yes.
Even over Tennessee?
They're 7.5 last I looked.
Wow. Okay.
So you can correct me if I'm wrong. At Denver,
it is 8.5.
Okay, it's moved. Okay,
but again, this is, every book's different.
Right. Okay, but still, for the purposes here, if you can go back, or it was fine. But Tennessee are 8.5-point dogs. The over/under for that game is, I believe, 42.5. I think that's what it was.
Under is 42.5.
Okay, and if you look, the over/under for the Cowboys game is 47.5. I would imagine that I haven't looked at this, but the Cowboys-Eagles game has among the highest over/unders for the week. So how is it possible that I mean, like, again, you could just scroll and look. It's higher than these. It's tied
just
with
tied.
Bengals, Browns,
Cincinnati, Cleveland, which is no surprise.
Higher than Steelers and your Jets.
Just a little higher here.
We've got another one that ties it. Bucks, Falcons, and another Dolphins, Colts. Okay, we got another one. I have yet to see one higher across all of Week 1. Here's one: Ravens, Bills, Sunday Night Football. Okay, and Monday night between the is still lower between the Vikings and the Bears.
Yes.
So you mean to tell me that this game has the second highest, admittedly tied for, but the second highest over/under of the entire week, but that the Cowboys are 8.5-point dogs. They're going to lose by 9, but you know that this many, and maybe the Eagles just blow them out that badly. Maybe that's truly what's going to happen. But the Eagles, who notoriously run the ball, you know what I mean, and play slow, don't have these big, like, that just doesn't compute to me. And look, if I don't put a lot of stock into data at Week 1 because it's all based off of last year. I certainly am willing to trust odds makers and sports books because they are who they are. But this just feels massive to me. This feels representative of people jumping on the Eagles because the Cowboys and Micah and everything's embarrassing. So I really have a hard time believing they don't at least cover. I mean, I would be stunned.
So they're going to be, you expect them to be very competitive, and you believe that, because I could already tell what the media is already trying to do. I see things like, what was it? In one of the articles, CD said something about reacting to the loss. Said something like crushing or something.
He called it the worst. Yeah.
The worst. So, but then you read the rest of the article and you don't really hear anything like he's being like, okay, yeah, that's, you would expect him to feel that way. But does that mean the team is so down right now on the front office, and I can't believe they let Micah go, that we're all just going to give up and we don't want to be here anymore? That's what the outside opinion, for the most part, I think, or at least some of the media, wants the casual sports fan to believe is going on.
Yeah, I think so. And I think everyone feels like, oh, they just admitted the season's over. They're not going to be competitive. And look, they're going to be a worse defense, right? Like multiple things can be true. But I mean, you've been doing this a long time. I think you would agree it's somewhat suspicious that the Cowboys are now tied for being the biggest underdog of the week, and that yet they're also tied for the second largest over/under in the game. I mean, it's such a weird, juxtaposition, to exist. I don't know that I would not pick the Cowboys to win, but I will say that very often the Cowboys are the most hilarious team and result possible, right? Like for everyone's sake. And this would do extraordinary damage for the long-term future that we talked about, maybe would be the ultimate net gain out of this. But I mean, it would be theater if they went and won on Thursday. And sure, I know you loved Donovan Ezuraku, the second-round pick out of BC.
Yeah, I do.
If he had 2 sacks and it looked like you were right, you know what I mean? And then on Sunday, Micah had nothing. I mean, like that sure, Jerry does bi-weekly hits on the local radio station. I mean, the first 10 minutes of that conversation would be incredible. Again, it would be quite cancerous to the long-term health of the organization, but it might be worth it just to experience that. I totally look, the Cowboys, like, how often do you see a team be that big of an underdog against a division rival? A team be that big of an underdog with tried and true franchise quarterback. Think what you want of Dak Prescott.
Sure.
I think we all, nobody of sound mind and judgment believes he is ever an 8.5-point underdog in any NFL game, especially after adding George Pickens to the fold. So
that would be interesting to find out if I had time to do the research and what's the biggest line Dak has ever had to face before.
I mean, it can't be large or can't be larger.
No,
I mean, last year, I do a show with my Eagles counterpart at SB Nation, Brandon Lee Gowden, and he remembered I didn't, that when Dallas went to Philadelphia last year, which was late in the season, and if you recall, Kenny Pickett started that game for Philly, but Cooper Rush did for Dallas. Dallas was a 7-point underdog in that game. I mean, like, how is that logical? I mean, again, some of it's not Jalen Hurts, right? Whatever, but I mean, you're in not full force Saquon Barkley at the time and all this stuff, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, it has to be representative unless, Dak has fallen off a cliff, right? Unless Dak is truly just, really, really, really bad now. And I don't think either of us believe that.
No. So, well, I took CD Lamb with my second pick in my fantasy draft.
Right. Oh, he went third and I had the fourth pick. It was a bummer. I had to settle for Ashton Genty, but my cousin took him. I'm still pissed off. But
what pick did you have?
I had, we all get a keeper, and so 10 players are off the board. And,
you get a keeper.
So it's effectively 13 and 14 the picks we're talking about here. But but yeah, so I just really can't. It doesn't pass the smell test to me. Again, the Cowboys might lose. I'm not trying to.
But don't you think it's going to be one or the other? Don't you think it's going to be either something where, and that doesn't mean that next week they won't come out and be just fine. It was just one game. Maybe everything happened too soon, too close to the game, that it just distracted them a little bit. And then all of a sudden they're fine after this. Who do they play next week?
They play the Giants at home.
The Giants, so they're fine, which is entirely possible. I can see that, or I can see also the other scenario that you painted, which is, how do you know that this game isn't going to go down to the fourth quarter and the Cowboys aren't going to have a chance to win?
So as we kind of consider that, and I'm partly using this for my own personal, purpose to look forward. I mean, if they win on Thursday, the Cowboys are starting the season off 2-0. We agree. There's no way they lose.
If they beat the Eagles, it would be hard to imagine because it's home.
Yeah, the Giants game is at home. Yes,
it would be hard to imagine home opener. They lose to the Giants, correct?
Right. So the Packers host the Lions on Sunday.
They do.
And I mean, and again, we have a lot of questions about Detroit, lots of change, lots of turnover, etc. And then they host Washington. That's their second game. Micah's old friend, Dan Quinn, right? Like, and so, I mean, like, just squint your eyes a little bit, and it's week 3, and the Cowboys are 2-0, and the Packers are 0-2.
Oh, they're playing week 3. Okay.
Oh, they play week 4. They play week 4.
Week 4. Okay.
And so, I mean, that would be just insane. And the only real, kind of leap, and it's a big one, is that Dallas would beat Philadelphia on Thursday night. And they will probably lose, but I would offer that they've never entered a Philly game for them at Philadelphia under better circumstances for themselves, because it's the ultimate can't lose, right? Like if you get blasted, so what? You haven't won anything in 30 years. You just traded Micah. You suck. Stephen A. is going to scream about you.
That could be a rallying cry that we've seen many times before.
Right. And this is Philly's banner night. And with the moment the schedule came out, it was, we get to raise the banner in front of the Cowboys. And every dude on the Cowboys is like, man, I don't even like football anymore. Like, it's just like, this sucks. Like, get me out of here. Like, nobody wants to be there. And I think that's why, I mean, this is going to tell us a lot about the Cowboys and kind of what kind of spine they have. Because they are, I've told you before, I'm a Houston Astros fan, and the scandal of all of that really kind of strengthened them in the sense that there's not a ballpark they go to where they're phased. I mean, they've heard everything that you could possibly hear, and it's kind of calloused them in a great way for a competitor. And so this is in no way a flex or no way a cope, but if anyone is weirdly suited to handle the Micah fallout stuff in a strength building way, it might be the Dallas Cowboys, because their owners have baptized them by fire one too many times.
Yeah, and they do seem to be, if you're betting on the Cowboys, this is when you want to bet on the Cowboys. You don't like betting on the Cowboys when they're favored to win, expected to win these big games.
They'll lose before before the championship game. I'm right there with you. Like, let's that's a January discussion. But right now, this would, again, like, do you find it within the realm of impossibility?
Absolutely.
The Dak throws for 327, 4 touchdowns, and the Eagles look bewildered, and everybody says, how did this happen? Oh my gosh. And Jerry's, soaking up all the fame and notoriety.
Let's keep in mind too that the biggest weakness the Eagles have is their secondary. So we would expect a pretty high scoring game. And I think we're going to find out early in the game. I think we'll know in the first quarter, probably even the first series of the Cowboys or two, on whether, what's the atmosphere like with that team offensively and defensively. I think we're going to find out right away.
I saw this morning that Nick Sirianni is not going to have the Eagles out there for the banner lifting. I've really come around. I think we've all kind of come around on Sirianni. Like, we all recognize he's a weirdo, but he's a pretty good football coach. This feels like a misstep to me. This feels like they're already in their heads about this. Or again, the Cowboys are like, dude, we don't have the mental energy to be in anyone's head. Like, we're so used to chaos. Like, you're worried about whether you're going to stand out there and watch your banner go up. I mean, again,
that is kind of silly.
They're built for this type of thing.
Yeah, that's a little over. I agree. I didn't even hear that, but that is. I mean, just let them soak it in, man. It doesn't happen. It happens once maybe in their lives. Let him – come on. He's being a little bit over – I don't know. He's in his head, like you said. All right, RJ. Well, it's always fun talking with you. Again, I know you're real busy, so I probably took up more time than I needed to, but I really appreciate it. It's always fun going back and forth on these topics, especially with the Dallas Cowboys and how much they're in the media and how important the Cowboys are to the media and the fan base around the country, pro or con. And we'll definitely talk during the season. So again, thanks a lot. We'll, like I said, we have a link in the description for a whole bunch of things that you can follow RJ for, including check out that 40-minute video of his reaction right after the trade. And thanks a lot, RJ. Enjoy the game on Thursday.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Apologies and excuse me again on behalf of both Bear and Honey.
No apologies.
This is like, look, I hate this football team with most of my being, but I love them. But I'm grateful for this time of year and for friends like you.
Yes.
And so I hope that it is everything you want it to be. I hope you eat all the great food and make all the wonderful memories. And I wish you and your audience a very happy NFL season.
Thanks, RJ.